Hey there crew, it's Mark, and in today's video we are checking out two brand new products coming to you from Baronfig. Longtime fan of Baronfig, always love their pens. I love their guided notebooks so much. They've had so many cool ones over the years. The Do Work Journal. We've seen the meditation journals from them. They just have so many cool ones. And I'm really excited today because we'll be checking out their first men's journal. This is a guided journal that is aimed towards the male demographic. Of course, it doesn't only have to be used for males. It's really open for everyone. But since guys tend to typically have a hard time kind of getting started in journaling, I love when we see a dedicated journal for guys because it is definitely a bit of a blind spot for us. I know for myself, I don't usually like a lot of long form journaling, so guided journals are something that I really do appreciate, especially if you're not into bullet journaling or necessarily journaling for productivity or for work. This will be great. We'll also be checking out this brand new pen. This is a new design from Baronfig. This is called the Squire Hex. You'll see some of the biggest updates of this pen being, well, it's no longer just circular. We've got a really cool hex design here. Anti-roll. This guy isn't going anywhere unless you really want to make it go somewhere. I've always been a really big fan of the Baronfig pens because they're beautiful inky pens. And you know what? Baronfig always just kills it with their design. It's something that I tell the team all the time. If you're not familiar with their Squire line, they just have some of the most beautiful, cool looking pens from over the years. I think this Liberty one is probably my favorite. It's all milled brass, but really cool design. So you're getting all the same benefits of these, but in a brand new cool design. We'll be using this today as we actually start inside of our Baronfig Huddle journal as well. So let's go ahead and kick into it, talk about some of the special features inside of here, and then take a peek inside to see if maybe this is the journal for you. The first thing you'll see on the cover of this, aside from the really cool looking design, is going to be the collaboration that Baronfig is doing with R.K. Russell. If you're unfamiliar with R.K. Russell, he is an NFL football player. He's a social justice advocate. He's a published poet, an essayist, an artist, super creative guy, along with those athletic skills. And he is who is helping to guide us through and also share a lot of his experiences with journaling as well. One of the big misperceptions that I think we have with journaling, especially as guys, is that it has to be deep and ultra everything. And the reality is it doesn't need to be. And sometimes it's difficult to know exactly where to get started. But what's super cool about this notebook is that they've paired together to really kind of focus on a lot of those things. So we'll be talking about things like their thought log. You've got a lot of room to work inside of here. I think one of my favorite parts about this guided journal is that it kind of leads you on your way, but then gives you space to actually journal for yourself. It's not all guided all the time. The notebook size itself is in the Baronfig flagship size. That's almost 5.5 inches by 7.7 inches. This is just slightly smaller than an A5 size, but always works really well. I feel like going a little bit smaller than A5 is always safer than going a little bit bigger. That's just my personal opinion here. So as we're opening this up, a lot of cool designs. Obviously, we're going off of that whole playbook feel throughout this entire notebook. When we get to the very front of this notebook, it's going to kick you right into what is all of this going to be about, right? You start to look at these pages, you're seeing a lot of icons going on, prompts, all kind of different stuff. So what exactly does this mean? What I really appreciate about the Huddle journal as we're reading through here, and you'll see a lot of this when we start to go through here, is this is expected to be used kind of in a cycle, a week cycle. But what I really like is they're already giving you permission up front to say, hey, while it's designed to work this way, you need to focus on how you want to journal. Right? This is not to scare you away from it, but to give you some guidelines as you go through. So the very first thing we'll be taking a look at is going to be the game plan. This is kind of the first spread in every single cycle. This is where you're going to put your goals and your purpose, especially as you're thinking throughout that week. There's also going to be a dedicated thought log. This is what's going to give you those prompts to get you journaling and thinking a little bit more. And once you get to the end of that cycle, you're going to see the reflection log. That reflection log is going to focus a lot on gratitude. It's going to ask you some prompting questions. The reflection log is also going to prompt you with some questions. It's also going to allow you to rate your week as well in really nice and easy ways. In my experience, a lot of the men's journals kind of fill you up with all of these prompts, but actually don't give you space to really practice. This journal, though, is different. It's going to allow you that space to do that without having to buy a new notebook to try it out. To make things easier, especially with filling things out, you're going to see a lot of iconography in this notebook, which I really like. It kind of takes away from having to overthink certain things, especially around how you're feeling and your motivations and your energy. I don't want to overly generalize. I mean, this is a men's journal. However, as I mentioned, anyone's allowed to use this. I think more than anything, I just love the simplicity of a page like this. For anyone who gets kind of paralyzed by having to overthink things, really nice and easy just to have these icons that go off of. All right, let's go ahead into our entry log. We'll go into that first cycle, and this is actually where I'm going to start jotting down some things for myself, both to show you how well this pen works, as well as showing you how easy it is to fill in things like this, and to also take a look at some of the more detailed icons and things throughout the page. While this journal is expected to be used week to week as you go throughout all of these individual cycles, I love that it's not dated. So you can start, you can stop whenever you want. Something comes up, you don't have to feel guilty about not following through, especially if something's dated. I love the flexibility of this. I found that setting up goals are really important, whether you're using something like a guided notebook here that's prompting you, but even inside of my own bullet journal, I do this for myself as well. I call them weekly intentions instead of goals. But overall, you're just writing down the things that you want to be paying attention to for that week. It helps you be more mindful about accomplishing the things. And what I loved about this one is that it wasn't just asking you what goal you're setting for yourself, but what's the purpose? What are we trying to accomplish with this? It's so much more than just trying to think of something random because there's 3 things that are right on the page. Instead, thinking of the 3 most important things and why they are the 3 most important things that are going on for yourself. The thought log on these pages, which come next, are going to be 3 consecutive pages, all undated, that you can take on however you want. In the instructions for this guided journal, it recommends doing it every other day, perhaps a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Friday. But depending on your own schedule, you may choose to do this a little bit differently. Maybe you start on a Monday, follow through on a Thursday or Friday, and then by the end of the weekend, you're filling out your last thought log before you move into your reflection log. Along with prompting you with some different questions. In this case here, if I could tell someone anything, what would it be and why is it important for me to share this? Over here in the side margin of your page, you're going to see some of those icons that we talked about. So when you're filling this in and you're putting in your date and the time in which you're doing this, you're also going to be circling or filling in your mood, everything from happy to kind of mad to not feeling too great. You'll also be sharing your activity level. You've got this like very vibrating line inside this circle here to mean activity level is super high. You've got a mid, and then you've got a not very much so. And then you also have this icon, if you can see it here, it's a pointing up or pointing down. And this has to do with how your sleep is going this week and the amount of hours that you're sleeping. I think all of these are super easy. The sleep one is something, though, that I feel like you'd have to pay a little bit more attention to, especially if you're tracking something like the hours that you're getting. When we get to the end of the week, this is where the reflection log is going to come in. So this is a bit different than your thought log, which is happening throughout the week. This is kind of your last moment of the week to go ahead and reflect back on everything that's happened before we start planning for the next week. Just like the other pages, it's undated. You don't have to necessarily do this on a Sunday or a Saturday. You're really setting up the cycle for your week on when you're going to reflect before you get started with your new week. The gratitude log here is going to be the same every single week. So this is a question you will continue to answer as you work through each of your cycles. What are you grateful for from this past week? What are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing right now? And what did you learn this week? And then down here at the bottom, you go ahead and rate your week. Overall, 1 to 5. And then you're going to go a little bit deeper. What was your stress level like this week? How about your energy level? Your general mood, sleep quality, your productivity, your social connections, your motivation, your self-esteem, and your gratitude. This really covers a lot of the pieces that I personally would think about. Stress is kind of important to think about. Well, is it a stressful week or not? And then how might that then reflect on some things maybe over here that I'm grateful for, perhaps it's currently challenging for myself. Overall mood, I love this productivity and social connections. That's one that people don't always think about, whether it's you going out with individual friends or having some type of event or just talking on the phone or just socially interacting with someone. I think it's kind of important in a way to reflect a bit on yourself, but also make sure that you're making time for that. If you go through a few cycles with super low social connections and you're feeling a bit off, maybe it's a good time to hit up your friends and maybe do something fun. Also, I didn't look at this before, but I was checking it out as I was working through this journal. is that there's a whole introduction here from R.K. Russell talking about the importance of journaling and why this collaboration was really important, especially for crafting this for guys. Again, it can be used for anything or anyone. There's a whole section here around the story behind the journal, again, really embracing the importance of journaling and why that was important for him and kind of how he is sharing and talking about that more. A lot of the reason for journaling here, and I'm not going to read it to you. If you're interested, you can buy this, you can read it for yourself, was around men's mental wellness and being able to express that and feeling okay to express those things and really reflect on like what's happening and when. It doesn't have to be super deep. Again, this is a sentence worth of reflection here. It doesn't need to be a lot, but how it can be really important and some very specific areas it talks about here, which I totally saw just in my first week, is the idea of that improved self-awareness, kind of knowing what's going on, taking that time to really focus in on that. I don't have to worry too much about the stress management right now, but being aware of it, what's happening, what are those stressors. And I love this enhancing your problem solving skills because especially when you're setting up those goals for the week, right? And you're thinking about, okay, what is it that I have to get done here and why do I have to get that done? I think that's really important because you're kind of figuring things out as you're working through it. Or as you're going through your weekly reflection and you're like, sleep is low and my overall mood has been affected. We need to figure out how to solve this. So there's a lot of different pieces that you can get from this overall and really enjoying what's happening here. And the one part back here that I really liked that he talks about was this when you don't know what to write. Because I think this is what gets a lot of people hung up, especially with journaling, not bullet journaling specifically, but that reflection or intentional part is this right here, which was great, right? There's prompts that offer you different things that you can write about if it's not something that you want to come up with yourself. And those exist online, or you can even use a lot of what's already inside of this notebook here to continue those. So there's nothing wrong with repeating those. The idea of free writing, I love this. Set a timer, just write about whatever is happening in your life right now and just keep it going. That flow of mental consciousness is just an awesome way to do it. Using journaling around brainstorming, helping to generate new ideas and make new things happen and maybe even uncover things. And then reflection, that gratitude, really taking a moment to think about what you're grateful for and why that's important can all be ways that you can utilize a journal for yourself. For myself personally, I'm going to go ahead and work on this throughout the week, and then we'll go ahead and come back and check out how we did. This is definitely something that I think could work in conjunction with a different type of planner, especially like for myself, I have my work bullet journal, which doesn't really have any of this stuff in it. It's very specific for work. And even my kind of at-home task bullet journal is something a bit different too. It's much more task event-based than something like this. So this is something I would definitely carry along with me throughout the upcoming weeks. But let's go ahead and do a little fast forward and go ahead and take a look at everything that I worked on in this past week inside of my Huddle journal. All right. So we've had a full week of using the Huddle men's journal from Baronfig. This is the collaboration with them and R.K. Russell. And here's where I was at the end of last week and then filling this out and getting this out later on today, actually. So I started this off on 6/23. That's when I first was doing my overall review of this notebook. My goals for the week were getting all of my marker pages content ready for pre-vacation / pre-beach time and working remote from that location, obviously to get ahead of all of the stuff that's going on. So I'm not just leaving everything high and dry. I also had to set up our watering system for our outside plants. So a super cool, like automated system, which I'll have to share on my Instagram stories later on in the week because it's really exciting and I'm excited about it. But, you know, keeping those things alive while we're away is important. And then also just packing up all the supplies because not only am I going to be taking some time off, I'm also going to be working remote from the beach during the week as well. So I need to remember work stuff. I need to remember bullet journal stuff, planner stuff, just having, you know, some of my things while I'm not at home where everything is exactly. So the very first thought log that I did was actually later on in the evening when I started this out. And the first question was, if you could tell someone anything, what would it be? And this has all been very top of mind for me recently. You actually start to see me reflect on this a lot. Right now, it would be that it's okay to take time for yourself. I think when I have a lot of stuff going on for myself, full-time job, the family, and then bullet journal stuff, which is, a side hobby for me, but almost like a second full-time job in a way, that it's okay to take that time, especially with my family. My wife's a teacher. My kids are off from school as well, and just spending time with them and, giving myself the permission to take that time that I need, but working ahead and prepping so I'm not leaving everything high and dry. The question here was, why was it important for me to share this? And overall, I just feel like I personally get so caught up with work and life and everything going on that I forget sometimes it's okay to just be still and to focus on what's important. Like right now, spending that time with my family and my kids, because, as they're getting older, I'm realizing like this time is just going to fly by really fast. So I want to make sure that I'm more present with them and trying to focus and do more with them throughout these weeks too. I filled out my side stuff here. So we had my overall mood for the most part was pretty good, a little stressful as we were packing up and getting things ready and getting to where we were going. But overall things have been good, at least as I started that week. The activity levels in that mid space, which is absolutely okay. I didn't plan on being overly active or anything, but just kind of where I am as of that day. And then my sleep quality of this point in time was great, but you will soon see that all changed as we went throughout the week. One thing that I do have to mention, especially if you saw it on this page with the close-up, is that I used the Squire pen for the first part of the week. But one thing that I realized as I was doing that is that it was really coming through the pages of this notebook. Anyone that knows me knows that I am not a humongous fan of ghosting inside of notebooks. I know that the Squire pens are inkier pens. That's why I love them so much. But I was a little disappointed in the paper, if I'm being completely open and honest and transparent with you, as I went to go write on this page for my next one and could basically see what I wrote. And in some cases, even had a little bit of bleed through here, which I was surprised about with that pen. But just wanted to throw that out there because I eventually changed pens because I really couldn't handle that anymore. So the next thought log entry happened midweek for me. Something that I was looking forward to was talking about really spending a lot of the time this summer with my family at the beach, focusing on kind of our unit and not necessarily all the extra things, and trying not to be too worried about that. I can prepare for this situation by planning ahead, making sure that I know what's coming up, at least with the obligations that I have. It's kind of really important for me. I have a number of things that I have to do each month because of obligations with social media that I've signed on for, and I'm okay with that, but really just planning ahead to make sure I can get ahead of that before anything else, and that way I can focus where I need to focus. Now, things over here started to decline a little bit for a very specific reason, for a very specific note. But my mood overall was kind of in that mid space as we were getting into the week and getting into our location and making things happen. My overall activity level increased because we're just trying to be out more. When you're at the beach and you have time in the evenings, you want to do that. But my sleep really got affected, but that's because my dogs were not used to the location that we were, and they were not sleeping very well and very annoying. And that starts to kind of build on itself over time. I get moody when I don't get enough sleep, and they're being annoying. It's a whole thing. And then my last thought log before we go into reflection happened later on in that week, and just really reflecting on the week as a whole. It's been awesome, and was awesome to be able to work remotely from a different location and have a setup and just, have a team that's awesome. And I talk about that in my gratitude coming up in just a moment. Some factors that influence my mood this week definitely are my kids' moods and like how they are in different situations, emotions when you're around other people, especially a lot of other family. People are excited, you feel excited, things get stressful, it can affect in different ways. And also the weather is so freaking hot, and no one likes that. But overall, happy mood, doing good, a lot of activity this week, which was fantastic. Sleep quality still in the crapper, but that's all the dog's fault. So now we get into the reflection log. And as we talked about, that thought log is happening throughout the week. And then you end your week with this reflection log. So doing that early this morning, what am I grateful for this week? Really just grateful for the ability to be remote, work from the beach, make things happen. I have a great team. I'm so lucky for the flexibility and really just overall grateful for that. Some challenges that I'm facing for myself is that it can be challenging working around a lot of other people when you're trying to focus and get stuff done, but you also want to be around the family. How do you exactly figure that out and make that work? It's something that I'm working on and finding that balance, and it'll just have to happen that way. Talked about what I learned this week. Well, I learned that my little slim portable monitor that I got for this situation is the best purchase of the year. I love being able just to set that up wherever I'm working, and it's pretty awesome, and I love it so much. And then overall rating this week. So I would say my overall rating was at a 4 this week. Stress level right there in the middle. Energy level was high. Good mood. Middle of the road sleep quality overall. Did well in the beginning of the week. Then we went away, and the dogs were very annoyed, and I didn't get great sleep, but hopefully that'll improve over time. Still felt super productive, a lot going on with work, and just really motivated by the space and kind of the new situation. Social connections, again, around a lot more family, so that has increased. My motivation was high, my self-esteem was high, my gratitude was high, again, all related to the flexibility of being able to work from anywhere and still get my work done and have a great time. So my next part of this will be continuing to use this as we go through the next number of weeks. This will just continue to cycle through itself as we go through. And the one thing I mentioned before that is in the back of here, which I can really appreciate, is this free form journaling space here. So if you want to go beyond what's happening inside of your weekly cycles, you have a number of pages back here, which are great. I'm definitely excited to continue to take on this as a personal challenge for myself to do this, because I don't do this often. I don't do it inside of my bullet journal. I like the ideas of it, but often it's something that I forget to do for myself. So having something like the Huddle journal, gives you all of those things, almost in a way, like I said, gives you permission to utilize something like this and write in it and reflect in it. I will have to tell you though, I don't know about the Squire pen inside of this notebook. Again, I love the pen. I love how it writes. Like, it is super beautiful and thick and nice, but it really did bother me with the ghosting. So I always like to tell people, look, if ghosting doesn't bother you at all, this is a beautiful pen to use for it. If not, I would use this in a thicker page journal personally for me. But if it doesn't bother you, this could be a beautiful pen to go along with a great journal to get everything started. I love the iconography that was inside of here. I think it was a really smart way to get you thinking without overthinking things, and even just those check-ins throughout the week. I like that there's only 3, and that way you can space it out a little bit, but it's going to be important for you to remember to come in here. So I might do something for myself where I'll actually maybe set reminders inside of my calendar on my phone or even in my bullet journal to make sure that I'm spending time in doing this throughout the rest of the summer, and honestly throughout the rest of the weeks, and just taking that time to reflect and see what's going on. If you like the ideas of the things that you saw inside of the Huddle Men's Journal from Baronfig collaborating along with R.K. Russell, I'll put the direct links for you down in the descriptions below for you to check out more. If you're not sure what to journal, how to, but you think it might be important, whether it's for your own mental wellness or just taking the time to reflect, or even just taking time for yourself even, this is a really good way to potentially do that. The notebook itself is $26, so I think it's a great investment in yourself, especially if it's something that you've been wanting to try out. The Hex Squire pen, a little bit more expensive. You're looking at $79 for the pen itself. Beautiful design, love the way it writes. You heard me before about this journal paper specifically, but again, everyone has their own way that they like to work inside their journals and the tools in which they do that. So all of the links will be down there for you below if you'd like to check it out. A big thanks to Baronfig for sending out the men's journal to me, as well as the pen to give a try as well. I always love trying new things from Baronfig. And make sure you also check out their other guided journals too. They have so much that they offer on their site. And even if you just want a dot grid journal for yourself, you really like the size and kind of everything else about it, you can find those there too. I'd love to hear from you down in the comment section below if you think that the Huddle Men's Journal would be something that's right for you, whether you're a man or not. I think that everything inside of this notebook could really be for everyone. Again, while the commentary around this is around men's mental health and getting guys more into journaling, which I'm always about, I still love to hear from you and get your thoughts too. As always, thanks so much for hanging out, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.